Chief Hollow Horn Bear, 1850 to March 15, 1913, was a Brule Lakota warrior at Little Bighorn and later U.S. Army Scout. He traveled to Washington, D.C. in 1880 and in 1888 to protest broken treaties, then led Rosebud Agency police. Between 1890 to 1910, he negotiated for schools and annuities. In 1913, the American Indian stamp featured his portrait, and he appeared on U.S. currency specimens. He died of pneumonia in D.C. Thousands attended his funeral, honoring his diplomatic leadership. Chief Flying Hawk, 1854 to 1931, was a Lakota historian, performer, and statesman. He fought at Little Bighorn in 1876, alongside Crazy Horse, and survived Wounded Knee. From 1883 into the 1920s, he toured with Buffalo Bill's Wild West shows in the U.S. and Europe, using performances to educate audiences about Lakota culture. He later lectured and collaborated with researchers to document tribal traditions and correct stereotypes. After Irontail's death in 1916, he led the Wild West Indians performers. His writings and speeches preserve first-hand Lakota perspectives. White Man Runs Him, 1858 to 1920, was a Crow scout who rode with Lieutenant Colonel Custer at Little Bighorn in 1876. After the battle, he provided detailed Crow language accounts to Army officers and journalists, emphasizing tribal strategy and diplomacy. He later testified in congressional hearings, advocating for Crow land rights. Though aligned with U.S. forces, he remained a Crow cultural custodian, organizing tribal councils and sun dance ceremonies until his death in 1920. His interviews remain vital indigenous perspectives on the conflict. Redwing, also known as Tatankamani, 1755 to March 4, 1829, led the Mendiwakanton Dakota near modern Redwing, Minnesota. Succeeding his father around 1806, he fought for the British in 1812, then allied with the U.S. in 1814. He signed the 1815 St. Louis Treaty ceding land east of the Mississippi and met with Ojibwe leaders to manage intertribal diplomacy. Known for vision dreams guiding tribal councils, he faced settler encroachment with ritual and dialogue. He died in 1829, remembered for balancing warrior prowess with peacemaking. Chief War Eagle, circa 1785 to 1851, led the Yankton Sioux in early 19th century frontier diplomacy. He served as a British ally in 1812 and later negotiated U.S. treaties, receiving a silver medal at Washington Councils in 1837. He guided settlers and traders safely on river voyages, balancing protection of Yankton lands with peaceful trade relations. He died in 1851. Sioux City, Iowa, erected a monument in his honor in 1880, celebrating his legacy of peacemaking and cultural mediation. Kaw-Claa, Good Fox, circa 1800 to 1871, was a Pawnee chief captured in Delancey W. Gill's 1902 photograph, wearing a peace medal, otter fur breastplate, and fan. He signed treaties with the U.S. to protect Pawnee lands and retained rights to perform Morning Star and harvest ceremonies tied to Pawnee cosmology. He mediated disputes with settlers while upholding seasonal rituals that sustained tribal unity. He died in 1871, leaving a legacy of balancing diplomacy and spiritual stewardship amid dispossession. Chief Porcupine adopted the ghost dance religion after surviving Little Bighorn in 1876. In the 1890s, he traveled intertribally to share the ghost dance's message of spiritual renewal and nonviolent resistance. U.S. authorities often suppressed his ceremonies, but Porcupine continued to teach songs and dances that blended Cheyenne prophecy with cultural revitalization. He fostered pan-tribal solidarity in spiritual revival before his death around 1905. His legacy is that of a peace advocate whose religious leadership offered hope during dire times. Chief Wild Horse, Kobai Obura, was a Quahati Comanche leader in the 1870s to 80s. He fought at the 1874 Adobe Walls Raid alongside Comanche and Cheyenne, and, after major hostilities ended, became second chief under Bull Bear. In 1875 to 76, he helped guide remaining bands to Fort Sill, working with U.S. agents to secure food and shelter. A circa 1880 portrait by W.P. Bliss at Fort Sill is one of the few authenticated images of a Quahati chief. He died in the late 1880s, remembered for his strategic leadership during the Comanche's final resistance. Thundercloud, circa 1856 to 1916, born Dominique Laplante, was a Blackfeet elder, scout, and show performer. He served U.S. Army expeditions as a guide and later appeared in Buffalo Bill's Wild West and P.T. Barnum shows, promoting Blackfeet culture. His 1898 portrait by Frank Reinhardt at the Trans-Mississippi Exposition highlighted living traditions. Known for healing ceremonies, he taught youth sacred songs and served as a cultural ambassador. He died in 1916, his contributions bridging Blackfeet spirituality with broader audiences. Charley Washakie, son of Chief Washakie, was photographed in 1899 at Wind River Reservation. Born circa 1879, he maintained tribal ceremonies, storytelling, and Shoshone language instruction amid boarding school pressures. While not a treaty negotiator like his father, Charley served on tribal councils in the early 20th century, advocating for family land allotments. His dignified portraits convey youth bearing the weight of cultural transition. He died in 1960, leaving a legacy of cultural stewardship through education and ceremony. High Hawk, 1844, circa 1915, served as an Oglala Lakota warrior, orator, and liaison with U.S. officials during the reservation era. He attended major tribal councils at Pine Ridge, negotiating on issues of land use, education, and legal rights. Known for his eloquence in Lakota and English, he upheld cultural ceremonies, language courses, and youth mentorship. His spiritual depth and political acumen helped maintain Lakota traditions under assimilationist policies. He died around 1915, leaving a legacy of articulate leadership and cultural advocacy. Chief Last Horse was an Oglala Lakota leader, active in the 1890s. Born about 1848 to 49, he belonged to the Kiaksa band. Photographs by George E. Spencer show him in full regalia, indicating his high status. He guided his people from nomadic plains life into reservation existence, leading ceremonies, councils, and mentoring youth in Lakota language and customs. Though detailed written records of his policies are scarce, oral histories credit him with stabilizing tribal governance and ensuring continuity of ceremonies. Chief Left Hand Bear of the Brule Lakota is known from late 1800s photographs and tribal lore. He is said to have stood firm against U.S. pressures, insisting on the continuation of sacred ceremonies, council authority, and traditional justice. Few written accounts exist, but his image in full regalia endures in oral histories as a testament to Brule pride. He is remembered for using both spiritual leadership and diplomacy to sustain his people's identity during a period of forced cultural change. Chief Three Horses, active in the late 1800s, was a Lakota Sioux leader whose name symbolized endurance. During forced relocation to reservations, he organized council meetings and spiritual gatherings, teaching young people traditional horse songs and survival skills. Oral histories describe him as a calm, yet firm presence in both governance and ceremony. His guidance fostered community cohesion and cultural pride amid adversity. Today, he is commemorated as an emblem of Lakota perseverance during the transition from free-ranging life to reservation society. Son of famed Chief Red Cloud, Jack Red Cloud succeeded his father around 1909 as a traditional chief of the Oglala Lakota on Pine Ridge Reservation. Though less celebrated as a warrior, Jack was respected as a diplomat, negotiating with reservation agents to secure resources for his people. He maintained tribal cohesion through council deliberations and cultural events. While documentation is limited, oral histories and period references portray him as a bridge between his father's legacy and modern leadership. He died at Pine Ridge in 1918. Plain Owl, Apsealuke, was a Crow elder active late 19th to early 20th century, serving as spiritual advisor and youth mentor. He led storytelling sessions, Sundance teachings, and council protocol training. Though few written sources exist, Crow historians credit him with preserving clan songs and tribal laws during boarding school and reservation pressures. Known for his quiet counsel and deep insight, he ensured ceremonial traditions survived in oral transmission. He passed away around 1920, revered for safeguarding Crow heritage. Four Souls appears in a 1909 photograph at Rocky Boys Reservation labeled Four Souls, son of Chief Little Bear of the Chippewa Cree tribe. Likely Plains, Lakota, or Dakota, his name evokes the four soul components of many Sioux cosmologies. Tribal lore credits him as a ceremony aid, connecting participants to ancestral spirits. Though no further written records survive, his image persists in museum collections and tribal memory as a symbol of spiritual depth during cultural suppression. Taqui appears in southwestern oral traditions, among Hopi or Zuni, as a medicine person and ceremonial guardian. Credited with protecting ritual knowledge from missionary interference, he taught sacred dances, songs, and agricultural rites tied to seasonal cycles. While no written chronicles survive, elders recount his role as a bridge between ancestors and youth, ensuring continuity of land-based spirituality. Taqui's enduring legacy reflects the resilience of Pueblo ceremonies in the face of colonization. Shot in the eye was a Plains warrior, likely Lakota or Cheyenne, whose name reflects a grievous war wound. Oral accounts describe his recovery and subsequent leadership in defense raids, turning his scar into a symbol of courage. Though no formal battle records cite him, storytellers recount his resilience and his role in teaching warriors to honor both bravery and healing rituals. His legend persists as a paradigm of unbroken spirit in the face of frontier violence. Yellow Shirt is known from a 1908 to 1909 studio portrait attending the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. Wearing a yellow cloth shirt decorated with beadwork and feathers, he symbolized warrior prestige and ceremonial authority. While his personal biography is unrecorded, he likely participated in sun dance rituals and tribal defense councils before mandatory schooling. His vivid attire endures in photographic archives as a testament to Lakota artistic resilience during U.S. assimilation efforts. Mrs. Badgun, a Cheyenne woman, was photographed in 1879 by L.A. Huffman. This striking profile portrait captures the quiet strength and dignity of a woman whose name echoes both resilience and heritage. Her braided hair, traditional dress, and simple beaded necklace reflect the everyday beauty of Cheyenne women in the late 19th century. Taken during a time of immense upheaval for her people, just a year after the Northern Cheyenne exodus, this photo is more than a portrait. It is a silent testament to endurance. Though little is known about her personal story, Mrs. Badgun's likeness remains one of the earliest and most iconic visual records of Cheyenne womanhood, framed by the lens of a frontier photographer during a rapidly changing era in American history. Pretty Nose was a remarkable Arapaho woman, recognized by her distinctive red, black, and white beaded cuffs that marked her as a war chief. She fought alongside Cheyenne and Arapaho warriors at the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876. Living to the age of 101, she witnessed her descendant, Mark Soldier Wolf's return from the Korean War. Her story reflects the bravery and leadership of Indigenous women warriors, whose contributions are often overlooked but remain an important part of history and heritage. This head and shoulders portrait of Lucille, a Dakota Sioux woman, was taken in 1907. She stands in front of a tree, her expression calm and composed, embodying both strength and quiet grace. Though the details of Lucille's life remain largely unrecorded, this image offers a rare glimpse into the presence and identity of a Dakota woman during a time of cultural suppression and forced assimilation. Her clothing and demeanor speak to a deep-rooted heritage, captured at a moment when Indigenous traditions were being challenged by expanding U.S. policies. The photo remains a powerful testament to her dignity and resilience. This photo shows a young Kiowa woman named O-O-DEE. taken in 1894 by photographer George W. Bretz. She stands confidently with a warm, genuine smile, dressed in traditional regalia adorned with shells, fringe, and floral details. The blanket beside her bears the name O-O-DEE, possibly a variation or alternate spelling of her name. Her clothing, beadwork, and pose reflect the pride and resilience of her culture. This striking portrait captures a powerful moment of identity, tradition, and dignity from the Kiowa Nation's rich heritage. Hattie Tom was a Chiricahua Apache woman whose striking image was captured by photographer Frank Reinhardt in 1898. She was one of many Native delegates photographed during the Indian Congress in Omaha, Nebraska. In this portrait, she wears a richly detailed buckskin dress and layered necklaces of beads and shells, reflecting a blend of traditional artistry and trade influences. While little is documented about her personal life, her composed gaze and dignified presence offer a powerful representation of Apache womanhood at a time when Native identities were under intense pressure from U.S. assimilation policies. This striking 1906 portrait of Kaw-Claa, a Tlingit woman, shows her in full potlatch dancing regalia, including a bear claw wreath, nose ring, traditional tunic, and octopus bag. The potlatch ceremony was central to Tlingit culture, a gift-giving feast symbolizing wealth and social status. Unfortunately, potlatching was outlawed in Canada in 1884, viewed as contrary to colonial values. Despite these efforts to suppress it, the potlatch remains a powerful symbol of resilience and cultural pride among the Pacific Northwest Coast indigenous peoples. This evocative portrait, taken around 1914, shows Margaret Wilson Frank, a Sawatanuk girl of the Kwakwaka'wakw people, also known as Kwakiutl people. Previously identified only as Sawatanok girl, recent research has restored her name and identity. She wears a cedar bark cape lined with fur, typical of Northwest Coast traditions, and large abalone shell earrings, symbols of nobility within her community. This photo honors her heritage and challenges the historic silencing of indigenous women, preserving a dignified and personal glimpse into Kwakwaka'wakw culture. This warm portrait by Edward S. Curtis, beautifully brought to life with color, shows a Navajo woman wrapped in a blanket that might be a Pendleton. The Navajo people are the second largest Native American group in the U.S., with around 399,000 members today. Originally migrating from Canada between 1100 and 1500 CE, they now inhabit Diné-Bikéyah, Navajo land, spanning Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. Covering over 27,000 square miles, this land is rich in culture and natural beauty, reflecting the enduring spirit of the Navajo Nation. This stunning 1910 portrait by Edward S. Curtis shows a Tlak'lute woman from the Wishram tribe, dressed in traditional bridal garb. Her beaded headdress, adorned with early introduced Chinese coins, and her buckskin dress embroidered with black and white beads highlight the rich cultural heritage of the Chinook people along the Columbia River. Once thriving with a population of 1,500, the Wishram were deeply affected by 19th century European expansion and disease, This image preserves a vital piece of their history and resilience amid profound changes. This beautiful circa 1906 portrait captures a Tewa girl from the Pueblo peoples, wearing a traditional squash blossom hairstyle common among the Hopi. Her manta, crafted from black wool and dyed with subtle indigos, features green and red embroidery. Designs typical of Pueblo communities, though varying by village. Curtis also photographed other Tewa girls sporting butterfly-style hair and traditional clothing, highlighting the rich diversity and cultural pride expressed through their hairstyles, garments, and handcrafted textiles. Chief Red Cloud was an Oglala Lakota leader who famously forced the U.S. Army to abandon its forts on the Bozeman Trail, an effort called Red Cloud's War. After the 1868 treaty, he continued to represent his people. He moved to the Pine Ridge Reservation and even journeyed to Washington, D.C. to publicize Sioux. His bravery and diplomacy earned him national notice. Red Cloud remained a powerful voice for his people until his death in 1909. His legacy endures as a symbol of Native American resistance and leadership. Chief American Horse was an Oglala Lakota chief and statesman noted for his diplomacy and advocacy. He promoted friendly relations with Americans and encouraged education for his people. For example, he joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show and supported the Carlisle Indian School to help Native youth. He opposed the Ghost Dance of 1890 and served as a Lakota delegate in Washington, pressing for cooperation and understanding. His eloquence and consistency made him a respected voice among the Oglala, guiding his nation through the difficult post-war era. Charging Thunder was a member of the Sioux Nation and a performer in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show during the early 1900s. Photographed by Gertrude Casimir in 1900, his dignified portrait shows him wearing a full feathered headdress and traditional attire. His participation in the show reflected a time when Native culture was often displayed as spectacle. Yet Charging Thunder carried himself with pride. Though his personal history remains mostly undocumented, this striking image preserves the face of a man who walked the line between cultural representation and public entertainment in a changing America. Chief Spotted Eagle was a Yanktonai Dakota leader who resisted U.S. expansion. In October 1880, he surrendered at Fort Keogh with about 495 people. By mid-1881, his band, roughly 402 people, had been moved from Standing Rock to the Cheyenne River Reservation. His group was among the last to lay down arms after the Great Sioux War. Photographers captured him as an Omaha Indian Congress delegate, a proud symbol of Arapaho Dakota endurance during that turbulent era. Louie was a son of Hunkpapa Lakota Chief Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull famously led the Sioux victory at Little Bighorn in 1876. Louie came of age during the difficult reservation period that followed those wars. Photographed by D.F. Barry in the 1880s, Louie wears traditional Sioux regalia, a silent testament to his heritage. Though little is recorded about his life, Louie's proud bearing in the portrait suggests the enduring spirit of the Lakota carried on through the next generation. Sitting Bull's son still speaks volumes for his people. Brings Down the Sun was an elder of the Piikani, Blackfeet tribe in Montana, photographed around 1909. Walter McClintock described him as an old chief who refused to share all his sacred knowledge, yet generously offered visitors wild berries. He was commended for urging his people to protect nature, preaching the preservation of trees and berries against waste. Little else is documented about his life, making this portrait a key record of the wisdom and dignity of a respected Blackfeet leader. Big Mouth Spring was a member of the Apsaluk, Crow Nation, captured in Edward S. Curtis's early 20th century portrait work. Curtis photographed over 40,000 Native Americans during his career, including many Crow. The Crow historically roamed the Big Horn Mountains region and were famed horsemen and bead workers. In the photo, Big Mouth Spring wears a beaded buckskin shirt and eagle feather, suggesting his status as a warrior or leader. Though little is known of his personal story, the image preserves the pride and artistry of Crow tribal culture for posterity. Chiefchild was a leader of the Apsaluk, Crow Nation, photographed by Edward Curtis around 1908. He wears ornate beadwork and feathers that mark his standing as a respected warrior. Historical records list a chiefchild in connection with Crow tribal affairs, for example, railroad damage claims in 1908 to 1923, confirming his prominence. Aside from such mentions, details of his life are scarce. Curtis's striking portrait of Chiefchild remains a poignant record of Crow identity and pride at the turn of the century. This portrait, dated around 1902, shows a Crow, Apsaluke, warrior. The Crow lived by the Bighorn Mountains in what is now Montana and Wyoming. As one of the tribes at the 1851 Fort Laramie Council, Crow chiefs secured a treaty recognizing their territory. The Crow were renowned horsemen, famed for feats like hanging beneath a galloping horse's belly to dodge fire. The young man's painted face and gear in the photo reflect the proud warrior tradition of his people. Chief Philip Howard was photographed in Boston around 1927 by Leslie Jones, possibly as part of a cultural exhibition. He wore a feathered war bonnet and elaborately embroidered attire. Although his exact tribal affiliation is unclear, his public appearance suggests he served as a cultural representative, teaching Americans about indigenous traditions. This portrait reflects the era's emphasis on documenting Native leaders, part of a broader photographic effort to document what photographers saw as the fading of Native American cultures. Howard's proud stance in the photo captures the dignity of Native people striving to be seen and heard in a time of marginalization. Shout At was a Lakota man photographed in 1899, likely by Hain Photo. Very few records mention him. His portrait is one of many taken during that era to document what photographers saw as the fading of Native cultures. In the image, Shout At appears in full traditional regalia, conveying the dignity and warrior spirit of his people. Though his personal story remains untold, he stands as a symbol of the Lakota's resilience during a period of great upheaval. Howard Frost served as an interpreter for the Omaha tribe in the late 19th century. He acted as a crucial translator and advisor between Omaha leaders and U.S. government officials. A Smithsonian caption notes a studio portrait of Frost labeled Omaha, Interpreter, taken at the 1898 Trans-Mississippi Exposition. Frost spoke fluent Omaha and English, helping his people in treaty discussions and legal matters. By preserving Omaha perspectives in talks with U.S. authorities, he became an important figure in protecting his tribe's interests amid rapid change. This young man belonged to the Wasco tribe, a Chinookan people along the Columbia River. In the 1855 Middle Oregon Treaty, at the Dalles, Wasco leaders relinquished most of their land and agreed to move onto a reservation. Today, the Wasco live on the Warm Springs Reservation alongside the Umatilla and Paiute, after the tribes formed a confederation in 1938. Though few specific details survive about individuals like him, his portrait preserves the Wasco name and heritage beyond the era of forced removal. This striking photograph is of a young indigenous man whose precise identity is unclear. Carl E. Moon took it around 1905 to 1907. According to records, he may be a Diné, a Navajo youth, possibly named Biyaj or Chebana. Other sources suggest he was Ezekiel Tobar of the Lipan Apache, wearing Navajo dress. Regardless of his exact background, the image carries deep meaning. It is a testament to the complex individual stories behind these portraits, each subject carrying his own cultural history. Lazy Boy was a Piegan Blackfeet man, photographed in 1914 by Harris and Ewing. That year, it was reported he became an honorary member of New York's Adventurers Club, a distinction shared only with Theodore Roosevelt. His image was also used in Roland Reed's See America First campaign, promoting Glacier National Park. Few personal details about Lazy Boy survive. His brief fame, via such honors and publicity, reflects the changing ways Native Americans were appearing in early 20th century American media and tourism, even when their own stories went largely unrecorded. Hash-Nash-Shut was a leader from the Wasco people. Originally part of the Umatilla Confederation, he married into the Warm Springs community. Prior to 1938, the Wasco and Warm Springs bands lived along the Columbia River, but under the 1855 Treaty of Middle Oregon, they ceded 10 million acres of land to the U.S. Hash-Nash-Shut is often depicted in traditional Wasco attire, symbolizing his tribe's heritage. His life reminds us of the complex history of the Umatilla and Warm Springs peoples as they adapted to reservation life while preserving their culture. Joseph Two Bulls was a member of the Dakota Sioux photographed around 1900. Specific details of his life are unrecorded. In his portrait, he wears traditional Dakota attire, symbolizing his tribal identity and pride. Notably, the word Dakota, or Lakota, means friend or ally in the Sioux language, reflecting the values his people held. His calm dignity in the image speaks to the resilience of the Dakota, even when tribal life was under great strain. He stands as a representative of many Sioux whose personal histories went untold, but whose spirit endured. Chief Mountain was a chief of the Blackfeet Pikunni Band, photographed in 1898. His Blackfeet name literally refers to Chief Mountain, a sacred peak in Montana. The Smithsonian records identify him as Mountain Chief, 1848 to 1942, of the Piegan Band, captured at the 1898 Omaha Indian Congress. Little else is known about his personal life. By appearing in these historic records, Chief Mountain represents the strength and continuity of Blackfeet tradition amid the upheavals of reservation life. Little Bird was a Southern Arapaho delegate photographed at the 1898 Omaha Indian Congress. He appears in Reinhardt's collection of tribal delegates. Though little written history of Little Bird survives, his portrait marks him as a respected elder. As an Arapaho representative, he stood for his people's dignity and traditions. The image of Little Bird serves to preserve Arapaho identity at a time when Native nations faced great pressure to assimilate and their lands were being taken. Chief Strikes with Nose was an Oglala Lakota leader active in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He is best remembered through a 1899 portrait by photographer Herman Hine, taken during the Indian Congress at the 1898 Omaha World's Fair. Though not as widely known as Red Cloud or Crazy Horse, he represented his people during a time of transition. He lived under the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, which had redrawn Sioux territory, and later resided at Pine Ridge Reservation, where he continued to embody the dignity and leadership of his nation. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support truly motivates me to keep creating content.